Boys, let us continue the third part of the chapter from hunting, gathering to growing food of class 6. Let us see from page number 18. So far, we have learned about storing animals, a new way of life, the beginning of farming and herding, a changing environment, domestication. This thing we have learned, children. So now, let us see page number 18, the last paragraph, the part of the topic is towards a settled life. Where that means settled life started. Let us see. Archaeologists have found traces of huts or houses at some sites. Archaeologists they find what um, when they investigate, they found huts or houses at some sites. For instance, means for example, in Burjahom in present day Kashmir, people built people built pit houses which were dug into the ground with steps leading into them. Pit houses, it was built during those days, at present in Kashmir. So there they found these people. They dug into the ground with steps. Several steps was there. Stairs were there in order to lead into them, in order to proceed inside the pit houses. These may have provided shelter in cold weather. So these pit houses have provided shelter to them in cold weather. Archaeologists have also found cooking huts both inside and outside the huts, which suggests that depending on the weather, people could cook food either indoors or outdoors. So archaeologists they have also found cooking huts both inside as well as outside of the huts, and it proves that they used to cook food depending on the weather. Either it is indoors or outdoors, they used to cook food. Draw a pit house. You have to draw, boys, a pit house. Pit house means a large house in the ground, usually circular, used for shelter, which have which we have got through the above part of the chapter. Stone tools have been found from many sites as well. Stone tools they have been found from many sites in well manner. Many of these are different from the earlier Paleolithic tools, and that is why they are called Neolithic. So many of these stone tools are different from the earlier Paleolithic tools, and Paleolithic means relating to or denoting the early phase of the Stone Age, lasting about 2.5 million years. So that is called Paleolithic. So that Paleolithic tools are the tools which were made of stone, and that is why they are called Neolithic. Neolithic means later part of the Stone Age, or that is denoting the later part of Stone Age. These include tools that were polished to give a fine cutting edge, and mortars and pestles used for grinding grain and other plant produce. So these include these tools that were polished. They make in such a position to give a fine cutting edge. Edges were sharp to cut anything, and mortars and pestles, mortars and pestles mortars. It is used for crushed or on ground, and pestles means a heavy tool with a rounded end used for crushing and grinding. So we find that they use for grinding grain and other plant produce this thing. Mortars and pestles are used for grinding grain even today. Mortars and pestles these are using nowadays also. Several thousand years later, at the same time, tools of Paleolithic types continue to be used and used. And remember, some tools were also made of bone. So, tools of the Paleolithic types continue to be made and used. And remember, some tools were that were also made of bone. Here under, some see their tools picture has given. You see it, boys. Many kinds of earthen pots have also been found. Many kinds of pots which are made of earth or mud that have also been found. These were sometimes decorated and were used for storing things. So that earthen pots sometimes they were decorated and were used for storing this to store things inside that decorated earthen pot. People began using pots for cooking food, especially grains like rice, wheat, and lentils that now became an important part of, let us see the next page, important part of the diet. So people they started using pots for cooking food, especially grains like rice, wheat, and lentils, and now they became an important part of the diet, their food. They become important part of food. Besides, they began weaving cloth using different kinds of materials. For example, cotton that could now be grown. So apart from that, they started weaving cloths. They started to make cloths, to weave cloths using different kinds of materials, uh, such as cotton that could now be grown. Did things change everywhere and all at once? Not quite, no. Change, it comes slowly, not at once. In many areas, men and women still continue to hunt and gather food, and elsewhere, people adopted farming and herding slowly over several thousand years. So in many areas, we find men and women still they used to go for hunting and gathering food, and elsewhere, people they adopted farming and herding slowly over several thousand years. Besides, in some cases, people tried to combine these activities. Apart from that, in some cases, people they tried to combine both the activities, doing different things during different seasons. Let us see a closer look. Living and dying in Mehrgar. Find Mehrgar on map 2 again, boys, which is given in page number 13. Mehrgar, let us see Mehrgar in page number 13. It is in Pakistan, Mehrgar, boy. So you can see here Mehrgar. So find Mehrgar on map 2. You find out in page number 13. Now let us see what it says here in page number 20. This site is located in a fertile plain near the Bolan Pass, which is one of the most important routes into Iran. So this Mehergarh, this site is located in a fertile plain. Soil of that plain is fertile for growing crops near the Bolan Pass, which is one of the most important routes into Iran. In order to go in Iran, it is one of the most important routes. Mehergarh was probably one of the places where people learned to grow barley and wheat and rear sheep and goats for the first time in this area. Boys, come and underline this one also. Mehergarh was probably, there is a chance to say that Mehergarh was one of the places where people they have learned to grow barley and wheat crops and began to rear sheep and goats for the first time in this area. It is one of the earliest villages. Mehergarh is one of the earliest villages that we know about. At this site, many animal bones were found. So, at the site of this Mehergarh, many bones were found. Bones of wild animals such as the deer and pig, and also bones of sheep and goat were found. So, bones of animals which are living in the jungle, the forest areas, such as the deer and pig, and also bones of sheep and goat were found here. Other finds at Mehergarh include remains of square or rectangular houses. Square or rectangular remains. Okay, it is found here. Each house had four or more compartments. Okay, compartments means a separate sections. Each house and had four or more compartments, some of which may have been used for storage, and some of the compartment it may have been used by those people for storage. As they go down, they use that. When people die, their relatives and friends generally pay respect to them. So, when people die, their relatives and friends they generally used to respect that dead body. People look after them perhaps in the belief that there is some form of life after death. So people look after them and perhaps they believe that there is some form of life even after death. Burial is one such arrangement. Sorry, it should be arrangement. Burial means to bury is one such arrangement. Several burial sites have been found at Mehergarh. So, still several burial sites have been found there at Mehergarh. In one instance, the dead person was buried with gourds, which were probably meant to serve as food in the next world. So, it is the thinking of those people. As example, the dead person was buried with goats. It is because of they thought that God probably meant to serve as food in the next world to those people who expired. So, boys, here under elsewhere, it has given in page number 21 cave paintings in France. You get through this. There's some important facts you may get here. This one, as well as in the next page, elsewhere, another one is there in page number 22. So, elsewhere, a Neolithic site. You must get through this one also. You read it. So keywords hunter gatherer site, habitation factory, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, microliths, domestication, farmers, herders, Neolithic burials. These are, that means, keywords. You try it. Some, that means, most of them we have explained in the lesson. So let us conclude here chapter number 2 for today. All of you, see you again in the next class. Thank you all.